Welcome to Eggs and Issues, a monthly business program presented by the Portland Community Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, everyone. I'm Erin O'Valley of WMTW News 8. Eggs and Issues is supported by presenting sponsors Bank of America, Martins Point Healthcare, and WEX, in cooperation with IDEX Laboratories, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, and Oxford Networks. Also, television sponsor WMTW News 8, production support by Headlight Audiovisual. And now, please welcome the Portland Community Chamber of Commerce President, Bill Becker of Key Private Bank.
Thanks, Erin, for that introduction. I didn't know that was coming. And welcome to Eggs and Issues. Good morning. This is the Portland Community Chamber's monthly business forum where we gather to discuss business issues of the day. Welcome to the 2014-15 season. It was great driving in this morning, seeing the cruise ships come in. It's also an important day. My daughter's going for her driver's test, and Destiny is coming out for my 14-year-old son. So yeah, there's big stuff going on at the Becker house. I am Vice President at Key Private Bank and the volunteer president of the Portland Community Chamber of Commerce. Our program today will discuss the most recent findings from our 2014-15 Economic Scorecard, which provides us with both opportunities to celebrate as well as challenges to address. Before we begin, we want to acknowledge the passing of Gus Tillman, Director of Operations here at the Holiday Inn by the Bay. In 1972, Tillman was instrumental in bringing the hotel to downtown Portland, which was the beginning of the development of the Old Port in the Arts District. Gus and the Holiday Inn were longtime chamber members and active in the hospitality industry. Tillman believed that to be successful, one must be involved in both the community and the industry, and his numerous volunteer and community activities attest to his commitment. Under Gus's leadership, the Holiday Inn by the Bay has always been one of the top Holiday Inns in the country, winning numerous awards, including the Holiday Inn system's highest honor, the Torchbearer Award, which the hotel won 3 times. The Chamber extends its condolences to his wife Linda, son Hugh, and daughter Christian, and to his many friends and the entire staff here at the hotel. Certainly a loss for our community. I'd now like to offer a few words about our sponsors. Our program is made possible through the generous support of our sponsors, each leader in the greater Portland business community. Please hold your applause until I have mentioned all of them. Presenting sponsors, Bank of America, Martins Point Healthcare, and WEX. Cooperating sponsors, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, IDEX, and Oxford Networks. Reception sponsors, Clark Insurance and Key Bank. Overall production support of Eggs and Issues is provided by Headlight Audiovisual, and our program is broadcast by our friends at Time Warner's Digital Service Video on Demand. Our print sponsor is The Forecaster. Our e-media's partner is Maine Biz. Our radio sponsor is WGAN, who interview our speakers and broadcast live right here every month. Our broadcast partner is WMTW TV. We also thank our special community partners, Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Northeast Delta Dental, and the Portland Press Herald, Maine Sunday Telegram, pressherald.com. Now please join me in thanking all of our sponsors for their generous support of Eggs and Issues. Our Tomorrow's Leaders and Entrepreneurs program allows area high school and Southern Maine Community College students and faculty to attend Eggs and Issues during the academic year. We'd like to thank our sponsors, AAA Northern New England and Springborn Staffing, for their support of this program. As school is just beginning, we do have a few students and faculty with us today from Catherine McCauley and Cheverus High Schools, as well as Portland Public Schools Superintendent Manny Koch and some of his staff. We also welcome faculty from Southern Maine Community College. Would you all please stand and be recognized? Many of you know that a new parking policy was initiated here at the Holiday Inn last year. More than a few folks have been impacted by some long lines to get in and out of the hotel's parking garage. Your time is valuable, and a quick exit is often needed for folks to get back to work after this event. The Chamber negotiated a reasonable solution. The gates will now be open for entering and leaving, and that came with a cost. So here's the pitch. We're looking for a parking sponsor. Just think, your company could be revered and beloved by hundreds of Eggs and Issues attendees each month who know that you are the reason that the parking is easy again. If interested, please let Chris Hall or Nancy Trottier know. We're eager to cut deals and give me one more sponsor to recognize each month. Baker Newman Noyes sponsors our Community Corner program, which allows area nonprofits to promote their organizations at Eggs and Issues. Our Community Corner partner this month is the Hope JG Foundation. The Hope JG Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation dedicated to helping families living with ALS and other neuromuscular diseases to live life to its fullest by leveraging existing world-class technology, supporting technical innovation and biomedical research. Their initial primary missions are twofold: to establish a world-class ALS-MS residence in Maine, similar to the first-of-its-kind facility established by Steve Sailing and Barry Berman at the Leonard Florence Center for Living in Chelsea, Massachusetts, and to inspire and promote innovative technologies which enrich the lives of families living with ALS and other neuromuscular diseases. Hope JG understands what families with ALS and other debilitating diseases face every day. They understand that because the co-founders and their sons have been facing ALS since 2007, and they've met many, many families fighting similar battles. They know the struggle of the afflicted, the never-ending work of caregivers, and the effect these diseases have on the children and the extended family. Hope has become their watchword, and hope is their anchor. For more information, visit hope-jg.org. With us today are Linda Gregoire, co-founder of the foundation, and Paula Fax, a board member. Please stand and be recognized by the Chamber. Thank you for being here. Now we want to take the time to recognize any new Chamber members who are here with us this morning. The list is in front of you. New members, would you please stand and be recognized as well? Copies of the complete list of our newest members are available at the registration area, or you can speak with Chamber staff. Yesterday, the Portland Community of Chamber of Commerce Board met with 4 candidates who are vying for 2 seats on the City Council. The Council is the legislative body for the city, and their 9 votes matter on issues facing our community. We ask the candidates to introduce themselves and let us know why they are running for the Council. We will next be sending them a questionnaire to complete and understand better their positions on various public policy issues. We will hold a candidates forum for Chamber members in October, and the Chamber PAC may consider endorsements of 1 or more candidates in October. More to come on that in the following weeks. However, we did want to take this opportunity to recognize one of the retiring city councilors, Cheryl Lehman from District 4. Cheryl is finishing her 10th term on the council, having first been elected in 1984 and serving for 30 years. She was twice elected mayor by her peers in the former mayor structure, and who knows, she might serve again as mayor under the new system. Councilor Lehman often ran unopposed, as even the most industrious candidates had a hard time garnering even 30% of the vote. She worked tirelessly with Senator Snowe on constituent issues until the senator's retirement in 2012. On the council, she has been an independent-minded champion for fiscal prudence and common sense in city policy. Councilor, on behalf of the Portland Community Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to offer our heartfelt appreciation and recognition of you at this time. Thank you very much. Following the presentation today, we will have a question and answer session. For this portion of the event, please use the microphone closest to your table to pose your question. Please introduce yourself and tell us the name of your company or organization. You can also tweet your questions using the hashtags #EggsInIssues, and someone will ask it on your behalf. It worked the last time. So now on to our program. I invite our guests up. Our format is a bit different today. The Eggs and Issues Committee has asked that we provide a State of the City report based primarily on the 2014-15 Economic Scorecard that you have at your seat. As you know, the Portland Community Chamber of Commerce is one of 5 community chambers and Propel that comprise the Portland Regional Chamber of Commerce. The Regional Chamber has nearly 1,400 members across all 5 community chambers. Portland's Community Chamber has nearly 700 members, representing 30,000 employees, including long-standing large businesses and one-person startups. 70% of our Portland Community Chamber members are employers with fewer than 50 employees, and almost half have fewer than 10 employees. So our business community is diverse, and that is a good thing for our region. 7 years ago, the Portland Community Chamber released a report entitled Looking Out for Portland and Beyond, where we began a conversation about how to be more collaborative between the public and private sectors and to improve the opportunities for businesses and jobs to be created in Portland and the region. That report, which included economic indicators, also had 3 major initiatives that the Chamber committed to pursuing. First, a change in the city charter to allow for an elected mayor with more accountability to the voters. Second, a review and revision of the permitting process that we felt was onerous and impeding development. And third, the creation of an economic development plan for the City of Portland in concert with the Economic Development Office at City Hall. All 3 of those initiatives have come to fruition. 5 years ago, we began the process of collecting data to evaluate how we were progressing as a community, based on objective data in areas of great importance to Chamber members and the business community. This is the 4th edition of our Economic Scorecard, and it provides a glimpse of what is working well compared to other cities in Maine and benchmark cities that are quite like us across the country. This year, we partnered with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Portland Downtown District, Portland Development Corporation, the city's Economic Development Department, Creative Portland, and the Growing Portland Collaborative. Working together, these important stakeholders have helped us to fine-tune this scorecard to better match up with the many efforts that are underway to bring jobs, people, and businesses to Portland, as well as to sync it with the city's economic development plan. Special thanks go to each of these organizations, as well as our researcher, Jim Demises of Camoin Associates. In addition to my own opening remarks on behalf of the Chamber, we have with us today Jack Lufkin, Chair of the Chamber's Economic and City Affairs Committee, who also serves on our board. Jack is Vice President at Gorham Savings Bank and is an active member of the Portland Community Chamber Board and has often been the board's representative for many city activities and initiatives. Amanda Rector is the state economist at the Governor's Office of Policy and Management. She serves as Governor's liaison to the U.S. Census Bureau, is a member of the Revenue Forecasting Commission, and supports the Director of OPM on economic and tax policy issues that are facing Maine. She conducts ongoing analysis of Maine's economy and demographics to inform policy decisions. Ms. Rector started working for the state in 2004 and has been the state economist since 2011. She's earned an BA in economics from Wellesley College and a master's degree in public policy from the Muskie School of Public Service. So welcome, and we look forward to both of your remarks as well. Let me begin by simply stating that the state of our city is strong and vibrant, but there are some underlying causes for concern to which we must direct our attention. Not a month goes by when some publication doesn't recognize Portland and our region through impressive rankings. CardHub ranks Portland as one of the 20 cities across the country with the most highly educated citizens. Techie.com lists Portland as one of its 10 most unexpected cities for high-tech innovation. The Huffington Post ranks Lewiston and Portland as the 8th best restaurant metro area in the US. In 2009, Bon Appetit named Portland the foodiest small town in America. Women's Health magazine ranked Portland number 10, reflecting efforts to make it easy to live healthy, active lives in Maine's largest city. In 2012, Forbes magazine ranked Portland 11th as one of America's hippest hipster neighborhoods. That year, Kiplinger named Portland the best city in the country for the young at heart, for those going into the second act of their lives. Parenting magazine named Portland the 3rd best city in the US, while Travel and Leisure ranked Portland the greenest city. And the accolades go on, going back many years. Most recently, Time magazine's March 17th edition listed Portland as one of 9 cities getting it right, citing our high educational attainment as a key reason, as well as our healthcare research facilities and our hip, foodie downtown and seaside location. Nashville, Tennessee, Boise, Idaho, Provo, Utah, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Greenville, South Carolina were some other cities recognized. Not ironically, these are some of our national benchmark cities in our economic scorecard. Our crime rate is low, and our unemployment rate continues to fall. We've seen cranes and construction vehicles busy for the past few years, building or renovating new hotels and some commercial developments. Together with efforts to bring ferry service back to Maine, we are seeing tens of millions of dollars in new economic activity, thanks to over 400 new or renovated hotel rooms in Portland. And as the scorecard indicates, nearly all of the indicators related to tourism in our region are meeting or exceeding their targets. Restaurants are great, the local breweries are seeing success in expanding both in and out of the state, and the cruise ship visits are expected to be higher again this year. So you might ask, what's the rub? Sounds like things are going well. Many things are going well, and the Chamber regularly promotes these plaudits and recognitions. Yet, as this scorecard points out, there are some underlying issues that should give us reason to pause and work to address while the economy is stronger than it has been in years. Economic cycles are just that, cyclical, and unless we dig into some of the lagging indicators in this report, we will be scrambling when times aren't going as well. Portland has proven itself to be a great city to visit. As a business community, we should also want Portland to be a great city in which to find a job and to live. It is our responsibility, not just that of economic development departments and organizations like Maine and Company, among others, to promote, search out, and assist in bringing good-paying jobs to Portland and the region. We applaud the good work of the mayor, the city council, and the economic development departments in their work. But we, too, in the business community, can be even more effective in helping to find ways to increase the success of our own business and job recruitment efforts. Some of these issues are state-based, and we need to work with our colleagues in the legislature to advocate for more focused and effective economic development efforts. Our recently published Guide to Economic Development in Portland listed 94 separate organizations involved in economic development just in our region. Surely more streamlined and collaborative efforts can be achieved, and the Portland Community Chamber will endeavor to find efficiencies in the economic development efforts and dollars being spent. Recently, Tesla Motors struck a deal with the state of Nevada to build their $5 billion gigafactory in the fields of that state. The state promised incentives of over $1 billion over 20 years to win the deal, bringing 6,500 jobs to Nevada and beating out nearby states like New Mexico, Arizona, and California. They were provided with sales tax abatements and property tax abatements. In return, Tesla must invest $3.5 billion in manufacturing equipment in Nevada. The legislature will be called into a special session to approve the deal. Now, this is a dramatic example, but the Wall Street Journal recently reported that 46 states are now using up to 200 different tax credit programs in efforts to spur economic growth and create jobs. Some of those programs are in place here, yet we need to advocate for those credits and programs to be used even more effectively to bring jobs to Portland and the region. Perception is also an important component of bringing jobs and business to Maine and to Portland. We have many great rankings, gorgeous coastlines, mountains, and lakes, yet the business community in the Chamber has specifically raised concerns when more negative actions, legislation, or litigation paints us as a city that is an outlier, making it more difficult to convince businesses that Portland is a business-friendly location. Bans on polystyrene containers and plastic bags may have every good intention, but they raise the cost of doing business for many. Increased permitting and sewer fees and a discussion about raising the minimum wage in Portland together may present a perception that is not conducive to business attraction. On the topic of the minimum wage, the Chamber surveyed our members, and while many favor an increase in the minimum wage, the vast majority of our members believe it should be a federal or perhaps a state action, not something done by the municipality. Again, why be an outlier? Additionally, with our highly educated workforce, we should be finding ways to have better paying jobs that are not even impacted by the minimum wage discussion. Add all that to the recent referenda surrounding Congress Square Plaza, overturning the council's action to sell a portion of an underused plaza to create a new event space, as well as the lawsuit over the Federated and Midtown development, and we ask, what message is that sending? There have been recent discussions about redesigning Franklin, High, and State Streets, and we ask whether those changes will make it easier or harder to park and move traffic and commerce through the city. Individually, these issues can seem well-intentioned, but aggregated, we need to pause and to ensure that we are not sending a message that would take us off the radar screen of business site selectors or business owners looking to relocate and expand. So while there are many positives for the state of the city from a business community perspective, we see in this economic scorecard some concerning trends that we plan to address as we continue to partner with our public and private sector organization partners. First, the Chamber will begin to hold industry-specific leadership forums in some of the areas of employment growth that we see lagging in the scorecard. We will ask the question about what Portland can do to increase employment in these areas. Is it education, economic development, housing, taxes, energy? The City and Chamber have been engaged in a business visitation program for a few years now, and this will build on that effort to bring industry leaders together to suggest best practices. And we will work with key stakeholders to implement those recommended changes. The Chamber will also begin to work more closely with the Economic Development Department to find ways to promote and recruit new businesses to Portland, and then work together to help close the deal. Better understanding and use of tax credit programs could have a tremendous impact on increasing the attractiveness of Portland as we compete nationally and internationally for jobs and businesses. The Chamber can and should be an important resource to prospective new businesses considering coming to Portland. Effectively streamlining the use of dollars and resources in our economic development efforts must be a priority as well. And finally, we believe that the objective data and metrics matter. We will work with the city to track and measure net new job and net new business creations in Portland. The economic development plan for the city can continue to be improved upon and beefed up by including metrics that track net new jobs in our region. Our plan is to include that information together with an overall summary indicator for the city in the upcoming scorecards. So the state of our city is strong and impressive, yet there are areas of underlying economic data that we do find troubling. Rather than simply celebrating all of our national rankings and identifying the challenges, the Chamber will work actively with key stakeholders to keep striving to achieve our goals for Portland to become recognized nationally as an excellent city in each of our economic indicators. The city, the region, and the state all benefit when Portland is increasing the number of people who live here and work here, and our charge is to compete successfully on bringing more jobs and businesses to our region, and that's what we will strive to do. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to now turn the program over to Jack Lufkin, who will walk us through some of the key slides in the 2014-15 Economic Scorecard, followed by Amanda Rector, who will provide a context of the Portland's region's role in the Maine economy. Jack?
Thank you, Bill. I want to echo Bill's appreciation to all those that have worked very hard over the last 5 years to create the scorecard. It is no small task to come up with indicators that are meaningful and relevant. There's no, as I've often said, there's no end to interesting data, but what are the salient data points that show us whether or not we are growing the economy, that we are as strong as we want to be. So with that, I do want to talk about the indicators themselves. These are indicators. They are not necessarily cause and effect relationships. These are just simply indicators that a well-performing economy ought to be doing well on some of these metrics. The other thing I want to say is we believe that Portland is a world-class city. So while we may be showing growth in some of these indicators, we've compared ourselves to some great areas around the country, areas that are like us in many ways. And in the back of the scorecard, you can get a listing of those communities and why we chose those particular ones, relevance to their state's economy in conjunction with how Portland is to the state economy, population size, whether they have a port, things like that were important when determining who to compare ourselves to. So again, as Bill mentioned, there are a lot of good and positive attributes about the city of Portland, particularly those around the quality of life. But there are some basic underground or baseline areas of concern. Those are employment in general, but particularly in our key sectors. When we created the Economic Development Strategic Plan in conjunction with many people in the room in the City of Portland Economic Development Office, we said, you know, what are the indicators, what are the drivers of the Portland economy? And we chose some. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, obviously, we have 30 indicators. Every single one of them is important, but I can't take 30 minutes to go through each and every one of them because we all want to hear what Amanda has to say. But you are not. Either I've been moving this inadvertently. So, total employment growth. Everybody will have received on their table today a copy of the latest scorecard. There's no need to look at it in depth now. I'm going to give you some of the highlights, but total employment growth. Over our one-year trend, we do continue to lag nationally. We've actually gone down 0.2% as compared to an increase nationally of 1.2%. But we also lag the metropolitan statistical area and that of the state of Maine. The picture looks a little better on our 5-year, where we grew 1.2%, but that's comparing ourselves nationally to a 3%, but we have outpaced the MSA and the state of Maine. So, as in many of these indicator points, there's some mixed news there with a troubling recent trend. One good area that I want to talk about is biomedical life sciences and healthcare. We're holding our own here, both among national comparisons and also within the region. So this is a good news. And then if you look at that bar all the way to the far left, I just want to note that Portland grew by nearly 25% when you aggregate it over a 10-year period. So clearly this is an important driver of not only the Portland economy, but the regional economy as well. What are we going to do to make sure this stays strong? Here's one where the story is not so good. Employment in IT. In the past year, only 1.3% growth in Portland as compared to 4.8 in the MSA and 3.2 nationally. We did have the 5-year spike, but if you look all the way to the left at the 10-year, we're lagging again. So we're small enough so that we can have one or two things that jump it up, and that's what we see on the 5-year trend. But if there's any area where the city of Portland ought to be exceeding, it's in IT growth, and we need to figure out what we can do to make sure that helps. Now, it's one thing I should also tell you about the indicators is that some of these do lag. Some of these are 2013, end of year 2013 numbers, so they're not picking up recent events. Maine Startup and Create Week, Jess Knox, the organizer of that, things like that. How do we grow and support them so we can grow in this industry in particular? Growth in creative occupations. Here again, we're lagging, and this is not due to a lack of effort on the good folks over at Creative Portland. This cuts across all industry groups. As a matter of fact, one of the interesting statistics about this is that creative occupations comprise 27% of all jobs in the city of Portland. It's a huge driver in our economy, and we want to make sure we, again, grow and continue that. So. Very quickly through in the next few slides, average annual wages. City of Portland actually does well here in comparison to the MSA in the state of Maine. Clearly, we have some well-paying jobs here in the city of Portland. Nationally, however, we're a little bit lower. What does that do relative to attracting top talent nationally? Can create some challenges relative to that. I'm going to very quickly over these next two. Imports. City of Portland has always traditionally done well in imports, and that's what we're seeing here. Exports, that's not the same story. However, new player in the field, the AIM-SCIP operation down at the International Marine Terminal in conjunction with hard work at the City of Portland and the state as well. This can be a game changer in terms of both increasing what's already strong in imports, but also creating the opportunity for some exports as well. Population growth. The well-performing areas across the country are growing their population. That's how they're growing jobs. The City of Portland is not growing its population. The MSA is growing its population. Why aren't folks choosing to live here in the City of Portland? Clearly, the higher wage job is here. We need to understand this demographic trend. Median city household income. The city does better than national benchmarks, but it is significantly below the MSA. That gets into the previous slide relative to population. Where are our folks who are earning the higher wages? Where are they going? This shows that they're moving to the outskirts areas. Housing affordability. This continues to be a challenge in the City of Portland. How do we make sure that we have affordable housing options for folks at all levels of the economic spectrum? I'm going to pick it up because I'm into Amanda's time right now, so my apologies. Rental affordability, we're doing very well, but I can tell you from conversations with landlords that the rental market is very, very tight. Again, I wonder what future impact this is going to have. Property tax burden as a percent of income, again, because our median household is somewhat lower, the property tax burden in the City of Portland is higher. There's a lot that goes into making up a city budget. There's both revenues and expenditures. We've had a recent influx of valuation in the city, which is a positive trend, but we've also had a reduction in state resources. So that creates some challenges. Hotel occupancy rates, good news here. We have waited with anticipation and love seeing the new hotel rooms come online. So we'll see what these numbers do in the future, but that's a positive sign. Airline passenger counts, more people are using the Portland International Jetport. It was recently recognized as one of the most affordable in the country. This is an important, not only to the visitation community, but also to the business community as well. The same goes true for the Downeaster. It's not in my slides, but that continues to go well. So Portland has many positive quality of life aspects to it, but as Bill said, we must nurture our baseline economic health to maintain that quality of place. Employment numbers, particularly in our targeted indicators, are troubling as of late. The cost burden is real. The population and demographic shifts need to be understood. These are issues that are important to the City of Portland as well as regionally and to the state. I think Amanda's going to talk a little bit more about that. We all benefit from a healthy Portland economy. The Chamber will continue its collaborative approach to strengthening our economy and growing the prosperity of all who live and work in Portland. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here to talk with you today about Portland's role in the Maine economy. I do want to thank the folks at the Portland Community Chamber for inviting me to come down and speak with you all this morning. There are not many events that I'm willing to get up before 5 o'clock in the morning for, but this was certainly one of them. My goal this morning is to provide you with a statewide context in which the Portland economy fits and to help you view the Portland Scorecard. We all hear about how the Portland region is such an important part of Maine's economy. I really want to help you quantify all of those claims. So I've brought with me a series of charts and graphs because I'm an economist and that is what I do. I always start my presentations talking about demographics. Why? Well, because as much as we like to talk about the economy as if it were some sort of six-legged, orange-furred flying creature, the economy really is all about people. We are the economy. So we need to know about the people in order to understand the economy. Also, I'm kind of a nerd and demographics are my passion. So before I get into the numbers, I want to talk about some geographic definitions. Thrilling, right? But there are a few different geographies I'm going to talk about, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So the City of Portland is self-explanatory. It's just the city. Cumberland County and a couple of other counties are also self-explanatory. Then there is something called the Portland-South Portland-Biddeford Metropolitan Statistical Area, which I have shortened to the Portland-South Portland MSA, or in some cases just the Portland MSA. This is all of York, Cumberland, and Saginaw counties. And so that is a little bit more than what you might think of if you're just talking about the Portland region. In a lot of cases, when people talk about the Portland region, this is the data that they are referring to. So it's really important to keep in mind that you are talking about an area much larger than the city itself, and it includes some more rural areas, places like Parsonsfield, Baldwin. But due to the availability of data, sometimes, as I said, this is all that we have. So let's talk some numbers. Everyone knows that Portland is Maine's largest city. In this chart, going back to 1900, you can see that Portland's share of the Maine population actually peaked back in 1920, around 9%. But in 2010, Portland still made up 5% of Maine's population. That's a pretty good share for a single city. I've included the Census Bureau's annual estimates for 2011 through 13, and then my own projections going out to 2030, and you can see Portland's share is pretty much static throughout that period. Cumberland County and then the Portland MSA, on the other hand, have been increasing their share of Maine's population, and are expected to continue seeing that share increase, although at a slightly slower rate. Currently, about 1 in every 5 Mainers lives in Cumberland County, and almost 2 in every 5 Mainers lives in the Portland MSA. That is a significant chunk of Maine's population in a relatively small geographic area. Cumberland County is the most densely populated county in the state. York comes in 3rd, and then Saginaw comes in 5th. So it really makes sense that the Portland and the Portland region are a major driver of the Maine economy. Before I move on from the demographic issues, I do want to touch briefly on age. Remember, I just said that Portland has 5% of Maine's population. Well, Portland has almost 7% of Maine's 18 to 44-year-olds. This is where young workers want to be, and it's one of the things that makes it such a dynamic area. Businesses want to locate where the workers are. Workers want to locate where the jobs are. Businesses and workers work in a cycle, so as more young workers locate here, it becomes more desirable for businesses. More businesses locate here, more young workers locate here. You can see where I'm going with this. So you're in an enviable position compared to many places in the state that have very different demographic compositions. In fact, just to give you a little perspective, this is the same chart showing the share of Maine's population by age for Cumberland County, and then 2 counties with very different demographics, Aroostook County and Lincoln County. And in fact, I've also included a line showing the city of Portland, just the city, to give you an idea of just how different some of the demographics are. So for the 18 to 24-year-olds and the 25 to 44-year-olds, the city of Portland has a larger share of Maine's population than Aroostook County or Lincoln County. Think about that for a moment. Aroostook County, on the other hand, has a larger share of the state's 45 to 64-year-olds and 65 and over. Just to give you some context for those figures, Aroostook County makes up 5.4% of Maine's population in total, and Lincoln County makes up 2.6% of the statewide population. And those counties have 6.5% and 3.5% respectively of the state's 65 and over population. I spent a lot of time talking about Maine's aging population. And while certainly the Portland area is experiencing the same phenomenon, it's not anywhere near the same extent as certain other parts of the state. So let's move on and talk about labor force and employment. The Portland MSA has about 30% of the state's employment and labor force. That share has been growing gradually over time. The scale on this is pretty small, just so you can distinguish between the 2 lines. But if you go back to 2000, about 15 years ago now, the share was about 28%, and we're up to just over 30% now of employment and at 30% of the labor force. Note, of course, that the share of employment has been consistently higher than the share of the labor force. The flip side of this is that the Portland area's unemployment rate has been consistently lower than that of the state. Maine's unemployment rate of 5.5% in July was already considerably lower than the unemployment rate for the US, and Portland's rate is even lower than that. That's a major contributor to bringing the statewide rate down. And part of that is related to the mix of industries that you have here in Portland and the Portland area. The percentage of people employed in manufacturing is considerably lower in this region, 3 percentage points, 6.5% compared to 9.4% for the state. There's also a somewhat smaller share of people employed in public administration. Instead, the Portland area has a higher share of employment in finance and insurance and professional and technical services. And these tend to be industries with lower unemployment rates, higher wages, more growth prospects, all in all setting up a more robust economy. While more and more jobs these days are requiring education beyond high school, Portland has an industry mix with relatively high percentages of jobs that require the most post-secondary education. You can see this reflected in the educational attainment of the population. Both of the previous speakers mentioned this as well. Compared to the state as a whole, the Portland MSA and Cumberland County have higher percentages of the population with an associate degree, a bachelor's degree, and a graduate degree. And it is generally common knowledge that education and income are very closely correlated. Along with higher rates of educational attainment and employment, the Portland MSA has a higher per capita personal income than Maine, and Cumberland County is actually even higher. I want to point out that while I am showing a time series here that's not been adjusted for inflation, so keep that in mind. The Portland MSA's per capita personal income in 2012 is actually 14% higher than Maine's per capita personal income. So you combine higher per capita personal income, larger share of the Maine population. If you do the math, it makes sense that Cumberland County and the Portland MSA make up a large portion of the statewide total personal income. Remember the first chart I showed, the Portland MSA is just under 40% of the state population. It makes up about 44% of total personal income. In Cumberland County alone, it's about 26% of total personal income for the state. Even more impressive is the Portland area's share of wages and salaries. That's the largest component of personal income. The Portland MSA clocks in at 49% of statewide wages and salaries, and Cumberland County on its own is over 34%. It means that 1 in 3 wage and salary dollars in the state is paid in Cumberland County. If you've been paying attention, that shouldn't come as a surprise. High employment, concentration in higher wage industries, higher total wage and salary income. What this means for other parts of the state is that more of their personal income is coming from other sources, things like proprietor's income, Social Security, Medicare, welfare, dividends, interest, and rent. So while wages and salaries make up 60% of Cumberland County's total personal income, and transfer receipts are only 16%, transfers include things like Social Security, Medicare, unemployment insurance, welfare payments. Some counties have a very different balance. In Washington County, wages and salaries are just 32% of total personal income, and transfer receipts are 36%. In Knox County, 12% of personal income comes from proprietor's income, compared with just 8% in Cumberland County. So this really highlights some of the regional differences across the state. The Portland area's high share of employment, their particular industry mix, and the relatively younger population means that there is an especially high wage and salary income here. Of course, there's a lot of spending that goes on in the Portland area, too. Portland itself makes up about 7% of taxable retail sales statewide. Cumberland County makes up over 25%, and the Portland MSA makes up almost 39%. And of course, coming off the summer tourism season, I would be remiss if I left out a chart showing restaurant and lodging sales. Here, Portland accounts for 11% of the state's taxable retail sales, and the Portland MSA, which of course includes the summer tourist meccas of the Sebago Lakes region and York County, accounts for over half of the state's annual restaurant and lodging sales. So finally, when you look at GDP, the role of the Portland region becomes even more evident. In 2011 and 2012, more than half of the state's GDP came from the Portland MSA. Half. And the share has been growing in recent years, too, from around 48% in 2002 and 2003. So 30% of the employment and 50% of the GDP for the state comes from the Portland MSA. That equates to a high level of productivity. You're generating relatively more GDP with the workers here. Again, one of the contributing factors is the particular mix of industries you have. Overall, the composition of the economy looks a lot like that for the state, with a few small differences and then one rather large one, the standout, of course, being finance and insurance. Around 5.5% of the state's GDP comes from that industry, but over 10% of the Portland MSA's GDP is from finance and insurance. 6% of employment in that MSA was from that area, just to remind you of that figure. And there are smaller differences in a few other industries. The Portland MSA has relatively less GDP coming from retail trade, healthcare and social assistance, and government. Retail trade and healthcare are particularly employment-intensive industries, so it takes relatively more workers to grow GDP. As a government worker myself, I'll refrain from making a joke about government workers and productivity. On the other hand, Portland has relatively more GDP coming from real estate and from professional, scientific, and technical services. So I mentioned real estate. Given that the Portland area has such a large portion of the state's population, it makes sense that it accounts for a large share of single-family home sales as well. The Portland MSA makes up more than 46% of the state's single-family home sales, with more than 26% coming from Cumberland County alone. This helps explain why the Portland area share of GDP from real estate is higher than the statewide share. My time is just about up, so I want to conclude by saying that the Portland area, as you all know, and as we've heard already this morning, is a dynamic and vibrant part of Maine, and it's a significant contributor to the state's economy. You have many advantages working in your favor. You've got a young, educated workforce, a mix of growth industries, you're close to Boston, you've got a terrific deep water port, you have a good mix of urban and rural geographies within the MSA, and you've got all sorts of recreational opportunities, whether they are within the city or just offshore or just inland. Of course, there are challenges too. Even though you have a relatively young population for the state, your population is still aging, and some of your industry sectors may be susceptible to this ongoing trend of online professional services. So the key is to focus on strategies that look ahead while playing to your strengths. Find ways to continue attracting young workers to the region to offset the aging that you know is going to occur, in case I haven't hammered home on that point enough. Look ahead to the employment trends, not just so that you can react quickly to new industries that pop up, but so that you can be one of the leaders in those new industries. Utilize your geographic position in your physical landscape and continue to measure your progress against the rest of the state, other cities in the country, and against your own historic performance. Data helps you tell a story about what's happening to your population, to your economy, and to your region. And it gives economists like me something to talk about. So I wanted to thank you very much for your time and attention this morning. And at this point, I think all three of us would be happy to entertain any questions that you have. Thank you.
Tony.
Good morning, Bill. Oh, am I here? Hello, hello, hello. There we are. Good morning. I guess I've got an observation and then a question request. The observation is this is sort of like listening to the weatherman to see what's going on outside, which is always good. Unlike the weather, however, we have the ability to make an impact. We have the ability collectively to do something about it. And I guess this is the request is, perhaps, Bill, you're the best person to answer this, is what do you want us to do? And I'll set that up also in another observation. You talked earlier about more than 90 organizations claiming some role in economic development. I would think that the Chamber has an opportunity to put a metric to what's the return on all that activity and a return on all that investment. You know, it's one of the things that I always remember is when faced with a challenge, the business community says, something's got to be done. And they form a committee and they put money in it, and we never find out what happened. So one of the things that I think would be helpful in this metric as you move forward would be to take a look at the impact of TIFs, training programs, all the public expenditures and private expenditures that go into it, but particularly the public dollar, where we have high expectations for return, but we never, ever know if they're working. And in doing so, we would be able to figure out the dollars that do work and do more of it, and the dollars that don't work and to stop it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, you know, you asked what can the business community do, where can we be effective? And I think, you know, I would point to the Chamber was obviously very supportive of the redevelopment of Portland Square Plaza. And despite some significant efforts by the Chamber, by the City Council, et cetera, we weren't able to really motivate the business community to get out there and work with their employees and tell the folks that lived in Portland why this was an important issue to vote on, and that it was going to put more money back in the tax rolls and that sort of thing. So I think what we need is, in addition to additional data and metrics that we're committed to finding out, and I think data gives us a lot of information, we need to work more closely with the business community and getting the message out of why business development is good for the city of Portland and all of the residents of the city of Portland. So when we put a call to action out there, we've got to really motivate our folks and our employees to get them to understand why this is an important issue. It's a part of our responsibility to do better messaging on that, and I think it's all of our responsibility to engage our employees more.
Hi there, I'm Michelle LeBlanc from Kemp Goldberg Partners, but this question is actually from our Eggs and Issues hashtag on Twitter. The Social Olive asks, how do we bridge the gap between cost of living in Portland, Maine with static salaries for professionals?
Everybody looks at me. You know, I think that's a really challenging issue. I think that certainly trying to find some way to increase the availability of well-paying jobs while trying to bring down some of the cost of living is going to be your best bet. It's not going to be a solution that's just on one side or the other. You've got to find a way to work on both sides. Certainly with this particular recovery, wages have had a very, very slow trend upward. They've certainly been very hard hit, and they've had a hard time recovering. I think that as employment starts to pick up, wages are going to pick up. In some respects, the demographic issue plays to your advantage in that respect, because as the population ages, people are going to become more and more in demand. We're going to have a hard time filling jobs, and so that's going to help drive wages up a little bit. But it's got to come from both sides, where you've got to find some way to control the costs while you're raising the wages. I don't have a really easy answer to that. If I did, I probably would be making a lot more money than I am now.
I would add, I talked about in my remarks just what a complex document the City of Portland budget is. And it is a revenue and an expenditure issue. And I would echo some of Bill's comments where the City of Portland does have some unique challenges being a service center community. We do have some challenges raising revenue and cutting expenditures. So I would echo Amanda's comments as well. The emphasis for me is on the well-paying jobs and how do we work together to increase those well-paying jobs in which we are uniquely qualified to have in the City of Portland. Efforts that the mayor has put in place with John Spritz at Growing Portland. There are many efforts. I mentioned Creative Portland Corporation earlier. If you are in business in the City of Portland and you need help finding, attracting talented and quality people to your workplace, there are organizations out there that can help you do that can assist. That's the challenge that I want to tackle, is how do we raise the boat for everybody, including those well-paying jobs.
And certainly the loss of federal dollars to the state, the loss of state dollars to the municipalities, that all has an impact on the pressure on the budget in the business community. The more jobs that are created, the higher the tax roll, the better off we're going to be. Ron?
Good morning, Ron Cantor, Southern Maine Community College. I find it amazing that we're talking about Portland's economy and emphasizing the fact that demographics are so critical. And this is Portland. We're not talking about the immigrant, refugee, asylee community, and I'd just like to hear something about that.
Sure. I know that from working with the mayor on the economic plan that we've put to the economic development plan, that community is represented in those conversations. We have quarterly meetings on there, and has been a large topic of conversation in those meetings. Jack, I don't know if you want to add.
I would echo that, Ron. It's a tremendously important part of the Portland economy and the regional economy, and it's not a good answer, but there are strategies that are trying to be figured out as to how to best address that. And the mayor's had some good ideas. As Bill mentioned, we meet quarterly where there's significant representation around that table, and it is definitely a strength, in my opinion, to the Portland economy, is that we do have an influx of folks who are calling Portland home, and how do we best utilize their talents and skills to improve the economy. We're going to figure it out.
We have time for one more question.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Brodsky. I'm president of the Sterling Road Company down in Biddeford, and I want to thank you all for your information today, and also I want to congratulate the Chamber of Commerce for their 3-year economic plan that they have for the city. And especially in highlighting the creative services that are here. I think that's a really unique part of Portland. What was glaring in some of the numbers here today was the lack of manufacturing. As a small manufacturer, that kind of jumped out at me. In terms of Portland, it's a little bit better in the state of Maine, but we still don't have the manufacturing base that we used to have back in the 90s, I think. You brought up Tesla. And earlier, I don't know whether it was this year or late last year, there was a notion floated to put out $50 million to attract a company of 1,500 or larger to come to the state of Maine. When I hear about those bills, and even $1 billion in tax abatements for Tesla for 6,500 jobs, that equates to about $153,000 per job. As a small manufacturer, when I hear bringing in companies with 6,500 employees, I freak out, because Maine is a very small town, and even 1,500, a company bringing 1,500 people here, or so-called bringing 1,500 people or jobs, would really tax a lot of us going forward in terms of hiring new people. Maine is a small business state, and we need to celebrate that more. We need to do more to bring small manufacturers, 10, 25 people companies here. We'll grow. When we came here, we were 18 people. We're now over 60. We're the ones that are going to take advantage of the artisans who have grown up here, the craftspeople that are inherent to the state of Maine. And I would hope that in looking at your plans and noticing that there's not a whole lot of manufacturing going on in the Portland area, a little bit better in the Portland PSA, that we would look at what it's going to take to help small manufacturers get up and growing here, where we actually have the talent base, and we don't need college education is great for a lot of our administrative jobs that we have, but for a lot of the plant jobs that we have, we don't need college-educated kids. We can take them right out of high school. And in fact, we're through the Maine Manufacturing Association, we have an internship where we reach out to local high schools, and if there's a local high school principal in here, I'd love to talk to you. And we'll take the at-risk kids, and we'll teach them how to work, and we'll teach them what a career path looks like in manufacturing. So I hope as you guys move forward that you'll consider that, and maybe you can speak to that, and just be careful of the regulations that you like to throw on the manufacturing side of things. There's not that many of us. Thank you.
I couldn't agree with you more, and thank you for bringing up the Maine Manufacturers Association. They do a great job, and some of their cluster work has been has been phenomenal. And I also would ask if you want to be one of our first industry sector leadership forum speakers on that area. So thank you very much. It's a great point. It's a very good point. So thank you. Thank you to our speakers very much. Appreciate it. Some final announcements as we wrap up. You can stay up to date on everything related to the Chamber by connecting via Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Stay tuned to the Chamber's website for video of this morning's Eggs and Issues, and as always, the photos taken here this morning will be available for viewing on the Chamber's Facebook page and on their website. Don't forget to join us on September 23rd at the State Theater for the Chamber's 160th Community Leadership Awards event. It was a great event last year, and honestly, we were really done in 2 hours. We'll hope to see you again in October, and this time we'll have 2 Eggs and Issues. On October 1st, we're going to hear from the University of Maine's Chancellor, James Page, and USM's Interim President, David Flanagan, on the future of USM and the Metropolitan University. And on October 8th, we'll be hosting the 3 candidates for our Eggs and Issues 2014 gubernatorial candidate debate. Register online today, as both programs will be highly attended events. Thank you again for joining us today. I should say that we're going to make, in honor of Jack and Amanda's presentation, we're going to make a donation to the Hope JG Foundation as well. So thank you for being here, and have a great day.